Hey, it's Drew, and I just recorded a really fascinating episode with Paul Gottsegen, who is the CMO of Mindtree. And you may not have heard of Mindtree, but you probably should have bought their stock because it's up 4 times from what it was before Paul became the CMO. And what you're going to hear is almost a step-by-step playbook for how to build a marketing organization as a CMO, starting with getting the expectations straight from the CEO and the board of directors, building a marketing tech stack, which these days you can't live without, then going after your brand and making sure you have a very clear promise, hiring a lot of or bringing in expertise that you need, that you don't have. Don't be afraid to try. And if something doesn't work out, move on. Sort of lastly, I'll say we talked a lot about metrics and how they can be deceiving and how you can get to the ones that will really work for your business. So with that, take a listen. I think you're really going to enjoy the show.
Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, a show that will help you transform your marketing from mere messaging to programs that break the rules and make a difference. Join the movement today and learn non-traditional techniques that give you an edge. Now, here's your Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Hey, it's Drew, and I'm really excited. We're in the studio today, which means we really get to get connected with a CMO and learn how you as an underdog, you as someone who might be competing against competitors 10 times your size with 100 times your budget, how do you do it? How do you start? Where do you start if they don't have a CMO? And in order to get to some of those answers, my guest today is Paul Gottsegen. And Paul is the Executive Vice President, CMO, America's regional head at global IT services and digital consulting firm Mindtree. And if you haven't heard of Mindtree, that's probably your mistake because their stock has gone up 4 times in the last 4 years. And Paul joined about 5 years ago. And we're going to find out if he can take all the credit or not.
Definitely not. Hi, Drew.
Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
You took the job 5 years ago. What was the situation like? And there wasn't a CMO. So where do you start?
Well, it's a funny story because when I joined Mindtree, it had a great history. And it is an IT services company. Everybody knows an Accenture and IBM Global Services. So we're a smaller, more specialized version of that. And they decided to hire their first CMO. At the time, it was about a $450 million operation, so pretty large, 14,000 people. And they wanted to get serious about marketing, but there were no shoes to fit into. And I went to my first board meeting. I was 2 weeks into the company, and now that you're talking October of 2013. And you go to Bangalore, you're a little over-caffeinated because of the time zone change, so it's probably noon Bangalore time, but middle of the night, my body clock, so I'm a little bit just not feeling 100% on my A game. Go to the board meeting. They're excited to see me. They're very nice to me. And, within 5 minutes, somebody said, yeah, we need to get more leads for our sales team, and that's why we hired Paul. And Paul's going to handle that. And I'm like, sure, yeah, that's what I'm born and bred to do. And then 5 minutes later, somebody else said, oh, and we need to train those salespeople, and Paul's going to do that. I'm like, yep, absolutely. And then 5 minutes after that, the next action item was around brand, and I'm like, doesn't anybody else get any action items here? And I was having kind of an out-of-body experience. It seemed like they got to the point of, we're going to do nuclear fusion, and Paul's going to handle that. So I walked out of that board meeting. I love the pressure. I love the challenge. That's why I joined Mindtree. But, within 2 weeks of being there, I realized they had everything riding on me, and I needed to deliver the goods. So everything I had learned up to that point, this was going to be my chance of a lifetime to really show I can build a team and deliver some breakthrough results.
Well, that's a really interesting. Usually for a CMO, it doesn't happen the first 2 weeks, but the job does have a way of growing. And the challenge for any CMO is they are limited by their time, right? There's only so many hours, even if you work every hour of every day, there's only so many things you could do. So what were some of your priorities initially? How did you get control of this beast?
One thing I did is in 2013, I was a really well-rounded marketing person, except I had one big weak link. And that was, I wasn't really a marketing technologist 5 years ago the way I am now. So I went to everybody on my marketing team, I gathered them together and looked at them all and said, we're all going to be marketing technologists. And they were surprisingly shocked because it turns out everybody thought that was someone else's job. There might have been one specialist who was our web guy, and everybody else thought, no, that I'm not a technologist. But marketing by 2013, everybody had to be a technologist. So just putting down the gauntlet that everybody's a technologist. And the other thing we did was we went heavy into marketing automation. I could tell you a whole story about how that's a little bit of a misnomer. It's not so automatic to deploy and learn about marketing automation, but we did that, and we drove leads, and were able to track all the leads that we had.
Can I stop you there for a second? Let's just on marketing automation. Which platform did you decide to use?
Okay, so we started with one, Pardot, and through no fault of Pardot, we just, now that I look back on it, it was more self-inflicted as we were learning. We switched to Marketo 3 years back. And when we switched, it wasn't just a platform change. We were so much smarter. And I'll give you like the big learning, and maybe your listeners won't have to go through the pain that I went through, but we did not. Nobody told me at the beginning to automatically or to sync up our sales automation to our marketing automation so that when we got a lead, it would automatically funnel and be viewed in Sales Cloud. And everything got out of sync very quickly, which created a huge amount of problems of trying to have marketing automation impact. We did just a little bit of custom work to link those two, Marketo into Sales Cloud, and it made all the difference.
And the irony is that in theory, Pardot is a Salesforce product, so you could have done that, isn't it?
We totally could have. No, this was self-inflicted. This was just me and my team. We said we were going to be marketing technologists, but I've learned everything by making all the mistakes in the book, and that was just, one of the more recent ones.
Yeah, my fourth book is going to be called All the Mistakes in the Book.
Yeah,
because
that's how you learn.
Yeah, it's true. It would be nice once that if I learned from someone else's mistakes as opposed to my own, just once, it would be a pleasure. But so, all right, so you get your marketing automation platform in there. Now you realize, wait, we have to run all these campaigns. We need content.
Well, right. Content I had always been really strong at. Growing up in the first part of my career, we learned content in a way that I think still, makes us different and better. But being able to package that, and when we deployed Marketo, everything we touched became a campaign. So then we could look, the bane of a CMO or the team is every CEO says, what have you done for me lately? Where's my ROI? And it's hard. It's hard to answer that question. It's always been very difficult. Now it's a lot easier. I can say, do you want to see it by type of event? Do you want to see it by salesperson, by account? Do you want to see it by region? Do you want to see it by, type of marketing activity? And we're able to track all that, and we can look at the whole sales funnel because we deployed this model that a consulting firm called Serious Decisions came up with, the demand waterfall, and that really worked for us. We got everybody on the same taxonomy because what we found where demand waterfall really helped is new salespeople would come in and it'd be like Tower of Babel. They'd say, what you're calling an opportunity, in my old company, we call it a lead. And it was like, okay, we don't care what you called it before. We're all going to say one word for this part of the sales funnel. And just that simple taxonomy change that everybody got on the same page it still helps us to this day.
So this is nice nitty-gritty stuff, and we're going to wrap up this section on that. So you learn marketing technology by doing. Did you add anything else to the tech stack on below or above besides Salesforce and Marketo?
Yeah, we have a lot. I mean, there's different types of personalization that have kind of come and gone. We have webinar platforms. We do little microsites for client-specific work, and we have specific microsite platforms. We do go heavy into Google Analytics, but like the latest edition of the tech stack just 2 weeks ago is Moz, M-O-Z, because that kind of helps me look at Google Analytics. We'd spent some time with Tableau. What I'll tell you about the tech stack platform is I've learned you can hire and fire the tech stack real easily. I never signed more than a 1-year contract because, nobody likes to fire any people, and it's even a lot harder to, disconnect with an agency. But a element of your tech stack, you should by definition be grooming, hiring, and firing your tech stack all the time, because as we talked about choice, there's thousands and thousands of choices out there. What are the odds that your tech stack is the best of breed? You've got to always keep trying new ones. Even if they fail a little bit, I encourage my team to always come forward with new ideas for the tech stack.
That's an interesting point, and it's funny because I've talked to others who sort of like to have sign a longer contract, get a better deal, but I get it. One hidden cost with all of these that often is misunderstood is there's a staffing cost when you get whether it's particularly for marketing automation. You got to run these campaigns. You got to measure the campaigns. The people who are running the campaigns aren't always good at measuring them. So it's oftentimes you need one or two. Were you surprised at how much, to feed the beast, how much staffing it took?
Totally. And there's two elements to that. One is I have this battle cry with my team called Sense and Respond, that it's no fair sending me or anybody just data from the report, whether it's Google Analytics or social feeds or whatever. You've also got to respond with what have you learned and what will we do differently based on the data. But you're right, the team needs help. So one of the great benefits of being a CMO or a marketing leader today, really versus days gone by, is the smart agencies and sole proprietors, people that can help you. And I do have a cadre of people globally, whether it's an analytics firm, a social firm, PR firms. And in the example you're talking about, Drew, I've got a Marketo expert on retainer that's been a godsend. And it's not something I would really need to hire. We do put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I was just in Marketo this morning. We're always in Marketo, but there's a double black belt that has been working with us for a few years, and he'll be around for a while. It's very helpful to have that.
That's great. And so Marketo's been the CMO, former CMO, has been a guest on the show. It was a great episode. So we have lots of friends at Marketo and clients who are on there. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and we've been in the weeds a little bit on how to build a marketing automation stack, and that's probably a good place for us to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about we're going to go back to 10,000 feet and talk about the big brand and what you do.
You've been listening to another great interview on Renegade Thinkers Unite with Drew Neiser. But the value doesn't end there. As a listener, you can download a free ebook from Drew, Renegade Thinkers, interviews with 11 trailblazing CMOs any business can learn from, top marketing thought leaders and proven executives from Time Warner, American Express, and Chico's, and others. Get your free copy at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook. For listeners only at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook.
Okay, we're back. And my guest is Paul Gottsegen, who is the Executive Vice President with a long title at digital consulting firm Mindtree. So, Paul, let's step back. We built the marketing stack. That was important. You learn that. That way you can give the reports to the CEO. But that doesn't get the job done. You still need to be thinking about the brand. We're talking about competing with brands that are much better known than yours. And when you're hiring on a B2B, having awareness matters, and having a positioning matter, and being more focused and nimble matters. So where did you get to with the brand?
Yeah, what we do is, because our competitors are all so much larger than us, even though our awareness is a lot better and we have different ways of checking that, if I ever try to go toe-to-toe with a company that's 10 or 20 times my size, that would be a mistake. So whereas the marketing automation and the tech stack get me in, get me leads, leads are pouring into the top of the funnel, my brand work is around what I call brand permission. Because even though some people are going to find out about our company just by the by, for the most part, I want them to see something, hear from a salesperson, have some interaction with Mindtree, and then they're going to go to our website, our social feed, our Wikipedia page, or they'll Google News Mindtree. And I want them to feel like they can give themselves permission that we've got the street cred and we look like a legitimate operation. So there are so many elements, whether it's having, we have great brand identity that actually came right before me at Mindtree, and it's a nice thing to have inherited, but the website didn't reflect this whole welcome to possible, we do things differently, we go the extra mile representation that people who know Mindtree know that that's why they would hire us. So the website reflected that. The social media, we had very few followers. Now we not only do the followership on social media, but a lot of, dark posts and things to drive very targeted awareness. But a lot has to do with PR, working with our CEO and our leadership team on why Mindtree? What's the story? Why would you hire a firm that's smaller than the one you're comparing us to? And you've got to try a lot harder and have a very good storyline of why you can solve their problem. And this is where you drop back into the ancient art of positioning and value proposition development and try to get an edge that way.
And so where did you land? And because this is, and can you summarize it in a few words?
Yeah. Well, Mindtree is, our tagline is called Welcome to Possible because we, as companies have a critical challenge right now. They're trying to gain competitive advantage. Technology's changing so quickly. They need to develop digital solutions that are transformative, but there's a big issue. They need to run the business as well. So a CIO is trying to run the business, doesn't have time to grow the business. At Mindtree, we have the ability to dream up digital solutions that companies could not dream up on their own. But then we also have the execution capability to deliver that. And we're small enough to give the level of collaboration, attention to detail, top management interactions that companies really crave. And what's nice is Mindtree at almost $1 billion is now scaled to the point where we do very large deals with the biggest brand names out there. And yet it's a totally different experience with Mindtree because there's a level of collaboration and you always get the A team. And in our business, that matters a lot because it's a very people-dependent, consultant-oriented type business.
And that's the classic small versus large is you get to be with the principals. How do you... It's interesting, the language welcome to possible, which is a promise and sort of more purpose than specific, like consulting or IT or the features of the business. How do you make a promise like that real? Well, from a marketing standpoint, are there things that you can do that make it real?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it has to do with showing them the possibilities of new business models, new customer interactions, how they can connect the front end to the back end of their whole digital value chain. So it kind of reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Jerry was berating the person at the rental car counter saying, anybody can take the reservation, it's holding the car. And if you think about Mindtree, we not only develop the front end, the whole user experience, which is really elaborate, whether it's car rental, whether it's airline, could be a big consumer products company, but having to connect it to the mainframe, the legacy systems, the pricing, the inventory, it's a lot more deeper work than, say, what a web agency would do. You have to know a lot about the details of an organization, but then you have to have the bedside manner because these are the crown jewels of Fortune 500 companies, and they're not so quick to just farm it out to somebody that either they don't trust or will not treat them in a really time-sensitive, collaborative manner. So we tell a whole story with Mindtree. I like to use kind of the analogy of the NBA. Even though I love the tall guys like a LeBron James. LeBron is amazing. But if you look at like a Steph Curry is the new face of the NBA. He's more agile, he's more collaborative. It's more of a small team, and it's redefined the face of the NBA. And yet if you see Steph Curry, he's really tall compared to us normal people. He's 6'3".
So you're the Steph Curry of...
We're like the Steph Curry.
So you can hit from about 40 feet because the guy extended the range of the three.
He's pretty good.
Way out there. So is there a particular execution that you did that you say, wow, I'm really proud of this, that brought this idea to life, that was pretty cool?
Well, what happened at Mindtree is when I got there, it was falling into a trap of being kind of a junior version of the larger systems integrators, which really is no good because you have to differentiate and position yourself very clearly in the map of, the prospect. So it turns out Mindtree was what we call born digital back in 99. The people that started Mindtree, these 10 founders were, back then it was called e-business. Remember that? That's what digital was called in 99. Well, we repositioned the entire company in the first 2 years. I thought it was going to take 4 years. I didn't know how long to reposition an entire large company, but very quickly, just because we had so much great raw material, I worked with internally, we worked with an agency on a tagline called Make Digital Real. And this is back in 2013. That was very differentiating. We had a story that we spent, now this is all internal. It went through about 35 iterations of what is our digital story? What is our overall, what are our messaging pillars? What are the proof points? How does it kind of logically flow? And it really, really struck a chord with the market. And now we've been riding that, even though digital's about 40% of our business, but from a marketing accomplishment standpoint, that crucial ability to find a position in the marketplace that was not taken by anybody. It's amazing because now everybody talks digital, but in the mind of the people in our segment, in our sector, Mindtree are the digital specialists, and that is a humongous marketing accomplishment. And frankly, it happened so fast and so successfully. We kind of surprised ourselves. It could not have been. It couldn't have happened faster. I couldn't imagine it happening in a faster time frame.
Very cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about measurement a little bit. We started with marketing automation, then we got to brand, and now we're going to go to measurement. Hey, it's Drew. I wanted to use this break to ask you a single question. Are you a courageous marketer? Do you have the courage to go to your board of directors and say, marketing could drive the growth of this company? We just need 3 times the budget. Do you have the courage to take the big idea that you already have and extend it internally and externally through influencers, through the media, through all of your content? If you're a courageous marketer but aren't sure how to roadmap all of this, I have a big idea for you. It's called Renegade Thinking. It's a program that we've developed and work with exclusively for B2B marketers, generally at large companies. And I want to give you my cell phone, 917-679-8852. Just text Renegade Thinking to 917-679-8852, and we can talk about how you can cut through. Okay, we're back, and I'm here with Paul Gottsegen, who is CMO at Mindtree. We talked first about sort of getting the basics set up, your infrastructure of marketing automation. Then we moved on to developing brand and having a large promise and a multi-channel campaign. And now we want to talk a lot about measurement and what you've learned about measurement. So let's assume for a moment, I have yet to meet a B2B CMO who didn't want to drive leads into the pipeline. Let's talk about, were you able to drive leads into the pipeline and what kind of numbers and how did you do that first?
Right. And that was our number one objective, was driving leads in the top of the funnel and then increasing the win rate as it got further down. And when we started with automation, it was a big deal when we had 1,000 people or leads in our marketing automation database. Well, now we've grown and grown through these big campaigns that we've done over the course of years. We cracked 100,000 leads.
Wait. 100,000.
100,000.
Now,
six figures.
As a $1 billion company, you don't need 100,000. So how do you weed through all of those and get them to become real leads and meaningful leads?
Right. So the great thing, the most automatic thing about marketing automation to me is the nurturing process and how we can put everybody into different swim lanes, different nurturing tracks, depending on who they are. Now, some of these are super top of funnel leads that they haven't unsubscribed. I tell them until they've unsubscribed, it's fair game, and we'll keep pushing content because we know who they are or what interaction they've had. And then sooner or later, they'll interact in some way and they'll move further down the funnel. And we have people, it's like like any funnel, it gets lower and lower as it gets closer and the level of intensity of interaction comes up. But to your broader point about just analytics, we do have a series of dashboards every Friday that my leadership team and I review, and it goes in many directions. So we'll look at leads, we'll look at landing pages, we'll look at conversions to the landing pages, social media and paid media interactions. The PR firms will produce share of voice reports. There's a lot of different analytics, and I'll tell you, there's a certain amount of art to the science of looking at the analytics because everything's got to have a hard goal. We need to track it. It's really important that you have that kind of analytic frame of mind as a CMO or a marketing leader. At the same time, it's kind of ironic that even people who are not doing well in marketing are particularly good at KPIs because marketing people are generally smart. And I've entered groups, different companies where the KPIs look great. And yet the reason why they hired me is they need a big marketing turnaround. So you have to be a little bit careful when the KPIs all look great. Sometimes it's okay if they're not, as long as you're being honest with yourself.
Right. So let's talk about KPIs that matter because I've loved the phrase that you'll hear from a CEO. Well, I only want you to spend money on stuff that works. So and let's talk about that. What as in terms of your business and trying to figure out, and I think you talked about it when we were offline a bit, just trying to reverse engineer, right? You get a sale, which is a big deal. You get a big $50 million customer. How do you figure out, it was probably a 6 to 12 month sale, what actually drove that business?
Yeah. My CEO and the CEO prior to him, who's now our chairman, they're both founders and with the company. I love them. And they both give me a hard time. They're both very analytical. They don't so much have marketing background. And they give me this budget and they want to know what I've done with it. And when we won this large consumer product deal here in New York recently, it was by a matter of course, I went and looked back over 3 years and all the nurturing we had done with that client. And it was amazing. There were more than 20 different interactions. They'd attended a few webinars. I was with them at 2 of the 3 little dinners that we put on here in New York. They attended some of our events. They downloaded some of our white papers.
So you personally closed this deal, basically?
No, not this one. But I did go to the CEO and I said, okay, let me lay this out for you. This is a classic example of marketing today where it's not so cookie cutter. If it was so easy, if you could put your finger on the one thing to do and just do more of that, everybody would do it. So it's a certain amount of just try different best practices. And when you get a win like this, look at all the different ways that you interacted with that client from a marketing standpoint and know that you just have to keep pushing and syndicating good content, having different interactions, whether it's online or offline. And then you're going to win some deals. You're going to build your brand and build credibility. And I found that in my 5 years at Mindtree and even the many years before that, there's never any one. People are always looking for the one silver bullet. Tell me that one thing. And it's just not that easy. And it's gotten even more complicated with all the different ways you can syndicate your message and the different ways people can interact with your brand.
Wait, no silver bullet? You're crushing my listeners.
Sorry. Yeah. I know. That's why they wanted to hear me tell them the one easy answer. But that's what makes it so fun. because it's a never-ending challenge. You're always learning, improving. Hopefully you're winning, growing market share. Otherwise you're going to be in trouble. But at the same time, you're building tribal knowledge and institutional knowledge with your team, skills and experience. That's what marketing. That's the heart of what marketing's all about. It's not really a math equation.
So given the fact that this individual or these individuals, because it's multiple people involved in a B2B decision, it's not one, how do you not put more emphasis on like a cost per click or the fact that you captured a name when you already knew who this person was, right? And they might have been the only person that read one particular document, but if you looked at that document, right, it says, well, we only had one, so that one failed. How do you make sure that you're not overvaluating the easy measures and undervaluing sort of the hard ones?
First of all, I totally did that. So guilty as charged, and we learned along the way that what you need to do, and this is account-based marketing is kind of what you're leading me into, which is that might be the most vague and kind of uncharted topic for me. We've tried it in multiple different ways. And I would say we make sure that with the accounts we're targeting, we look in our sales automation and make sure there's a lot of contacts in there. And if there are not, that's a red flag. And we have tools that's part of our MarTech stack, which will feed better contacts in there. Then through dark posts and targeted posts, whether it's social media, you can do this with LinkedIn. There's a number of different ways to target people at a specific account, because when we reverse engineer large wins, you're right. It's never, hey, we interacted really well and marketed really well to one or two people. It's always a volume game. And what's nice is if you're smart, this is part of the guerrilla marketing we do for these large deals, you can really rifle shot into a single account and do ads and all sorts of dark posts and tracking just within that account. And you can have different messages for different levels or different job titles.
And the key thing there, it's really interesting with account-based marketing is, again, if you think of this as direct marketing, you're making a mistake. You already know this company is interested in you, right? So the opportunity is to continue to build awareness and credibility and trust by having interesting exposures, maybe trying to get them to read something else. But the notion that you're going to use account-based marketing, which is basically putting messages in front of people at a particular company, right? So that's a really important thing, at least as we're learning about account-based marketing. It's not the get them to click and look at a cost per click or anything like that. It's really about building trust and interest and intrigue and sort of more like classic old-fashioned advertising.
Yeah, it is like old-fashioned, but the difference is now because of the marketing technology tools, a company like us, that we don't sponsor big, golf events or UK football teams, but I can still drive great awareness and brand with prospects by targeting an account very specifically, making sure I can use tools like ZenIQ that cleanse our data, and then we'll use tools like whether it's LinkedIn or dark posts on Facebook and Twitter, and rifle shot with a relatively reasonable budget go right into the targeted people at the account. And what's interesting is if we don't have enough people targeted that account, we'll use tools like Discover.org to grow the base of contacts that we have within the targeted accounts that we're going after. So it's been really nice because the feedback from prospects and clients is, hey, we keep seeing you guys advertise. We've been downloading your papers. And I think the smart way to use marketing today is to use the tools and avoid if you don't have the millions and millions for a large sponsorship, the tools actually do the job.
What a great place for us to sort of find a wrap up here. As you look back at the last 5 years at Mindtree, what would be sort of, and you had a group of CMOs here, would there be sort of, I like to ask, 2 do's and a don't, 2 things that you would recommend that they do and 1 thing that they don't do?
Okay. One is make sure your team the marketing team at your organization, that everybody views themselves and is empowered to be a marketing technologist, because too often people are specialized and they'll feel like, oh, I'm just more like a project manager, or I'm a messaging person, or I'm just the web person. And the challenge you'll have is all of your campaigns are going to be fully integrated, and you have to have anybody who's running that campaign be able to see it end to end. So that's a really important one. One that a little more tactical that worked for us is we got involved in social selling training for our sales team. This had a huge impact on us. It turns out that even great salespeople, they just had never been trained on how to use primarily LinkedIn to build their brand. And that's really the cold calling of today and establishing thought leadership for a professional services firm like us. The don't would be to think that we did a double try with marketing automation. I got a little bit fooled by the term automation. We thought it was all around personas and scoring. So when I started with automation, personas and scoring, everybody said, if you just get those two right, we had so many meetings on those two topics, scoring and personas, when really you've got to make sure that your sales automation system is fully integrated and in sync with your marketing automation system, because you want to treat a lead and a prospect in the same way. And you want to be able to go back and forth between individual leads, and the salespeople want to look at an account. They don't care so much about a lead as an account. And when you sync marketing and sales automation, you can have things flipping back and forth between here's one person versus here's everything we're doing to nurture an account.
Awesome. All right. Well, this is a great place for me to do my wrap up here. I heard a lot of things that I think if you're a new CMO or you're new on the job that are really important. First thing you better do is go to the board of directors and ask them what their expectations are. Even if it's a long list, it'll help you understand what you need to do. Number two is, before you spend $1 on paid advertising, make sure you have your infrastructure built. These days, it is impossible to go to market as a B2B brand without a solid marketing automation tech stack. 3, now you can turn your attention to brand. Think about a promise that is bigger than the features and the services that you provide, that ideally provides a vision. 4, once you have this promise and you have the infrastructure, partner with experts. Don't be afraid to bring in outside help. And it sort of reminds me with Mindtree, they are experts. They are trying to get companies to bring them in. And so it's kind of cool that they don't try to do everything in-house as well. If you're looking for silver bullet metrics, good luck with that. Some brands are better at getting there, but mainly, and we talked a lot about this at the end, it's about surrounding your very specific focus target in multiple ways so that you can sort of own them and be top of mind with them and give them the information they need through all sorts of different ways in order to ultimately close the sale. Love the fact the social selling came up and ABM came up, 2 ways that we see a lot of brands having great success with. So I think that's a pretty good summary of what we talked about. Paul, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
And so for all of you listeners, thanks again for paying attention, sticking with us all the way through. As always, encourage you to share the show with a friend, to write a review, to subscribe on your favorite channel. We're everywhere. And until next time, keep those Renegade Thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.